Hi everyone, so my name is Naiba Segura and today I'm going to present to you works by Hassan Fathy. Hassan Fathy is an Egyptian architect. He had a doctorate in engineering and architecture. He was very well known for urban development and construction for the village of New Gorna and acoustical design, which we'll look at. He was also a very well known public speaker. Okay, so some of the philosophies of Hassan Fathy were, as the title of the presentation and his book is, Architecture for the Poor. So some of his main inhabitants and clients per se were poor Egyptian farmers. And he considered, he considered Egypt as a poor country, and he believed that there was no place for industrial produced brick and steel in a poor country like Egypt. And moreover, those materials weren't appropriate for the hot desert environment. And as a solution, he proposed cheaper vernacular strategies found in Nubian and ancient Egyptian architecture in the form of adobe houses. Yeah. And here, this quote kind of shows his disdain for industrial used materials in terms of architecture for the poor. And here's some more quotes. And then here it shows his penchant for Adobe, build your architecture from what is beneath your feet. Acoustics essentially, like its main goal is to achieve harmony between inhabitants of a settlement and their physical and social cultural environments. So some food to think about as we go through this presentation is, does Phoenix achieve harmony with its environment? Is a city in the desert that's relying on stucco materials and energy intensive AC rather than Adobe in harmony with its environment and its context? We'll take a look at that and on what Hassan kind of proposes about that. So his design movement, or what he believed in, I kind of coined it as Egyptian traditionalist brutalism. So kind of taking Worcester as an example, both of his styles being brutalism. Essentially, brutalism is, think of it as like the solid stone material, in this case, adobe, kind of forming, sculpting the form and the space in the form of a skeleton with the perforated fenestrations of the building and the folds of it, making the basis, as I said, for the form and the space making of the building. And a big characteristic of that is exposed solid adobe or concrete material. So we're going to take a look at New Gorna. And so New Gorna is a village near Luxor on the west bank of the Nile, near the Valley of the Kings. And the Egyptian government essentially commissioned it to him to relocate the residents of Old Gorna because the city was abandoned, the village was abandoned, and they also engaged in looting of the Valley of the Kings. So they wanted to provide them a new kind of settlement for a better way of life and for upward mobility. Okay, so the layout of the city, it's typical the street layout of Arab cities, like the zigzags and the labyrinthine layout. We have the city center right here with the city hall right here, and we're going to take a look at the mosque and the bazaar and market that's right there. And then so here's a close-up kind of showing the dome typology of some of the buildings. And so one of the other things that Hassan believed in essentially was kind of making the inhabitant a craftsman for their houses. So he believed making these inhabitants of New Gorna that, like, teaching them Adobe instead of them buying brick and steel at from industry, that it was like a material that's cheap to make, easy to teach and to build with. And he also believed, he also thought that it's an ideal thermal mass of passive cooling that is ideal for that desert environment, which is very hot in terms of sustainability considerations, not just cheap and economic considerations. So here's the houses. Now they're electrified, showing that they have been retrofitted and supplemented with AC besides the adobe. Here's the mosque, showing the minaret and the dome typology of Muslim architecture, the multiplicity of domes right here in the prayer hall on top of that mosque. And then we have the multiplicity happening over here at the bazaar market again. And notice the deterioration of the facade, mainly due to lack of maintenance for the adobe. So here we take a look at the potential of what these structures would look like renovated, or how they look like recently built. So showing the clear intentions of the white massing, or the white facade to reflect the light, the screens for ventilation and for letting the heat out, and the tall structures and the thick adobe walls. This is kind of the idea that he had for responding in terms of sustainability, and then the austere design to maintain it low cost. And so to contrast that, we're going to look at an ostentatious design that he made, in terms of typical commissions from more like, higher money source. So he made this mausoleum for his brother-in-law, who was a famous Egyptian diplomat. And it's located in Cairo. Here's the background I just mentioned, and it's right next to a busy street. And it's kind of constrained by the site. And so overall, the layout of the site is we have this typical bringing life to the desert motif of the ancient Egyptian tombs. We have the typical kind of courtyard typology with the pool right there out of the houses, and we have a tower. And so here's a sketch of that. And so here with this elevation, we can kind of see the detail of how this is him pushing the vernacular Nubian and ancient Egyptian architecture with adobe bricks and sandstone to its limits. In contrast to the austere, smooth surfaces of New Gorna, here we have heavy ornamentation in the form of carvings, perforations, and brick cladding. Here's another view of it next to that busy street. And so now some of the things to take in and reflect about in terms of postmodernism and the contemporary creative architecture, in terms of what Hassan is kind of trying to say about vernacular and sustainability in terms of architecture, is like, do we really want to make per se technology reliant glass buildings with flat roofs that are relying on AC or HVAC likely to be sustainable? Or can we look at maybe at like wood buildings made with local materials like wood and with like slope roof strategies, and the respond to culture in terms of like how we should build? Should we make a house with adobe brick and that uses passive heating, or one out of stucco and relies on AC and high energy costs? Should we look at past inspiration just as the Blue Moss did with the Hagia Sophia and the Pantheon, or should our designs be generic, international style skyscrapers as this one? Here with these skylines dominated in various modern cities by international style and modernism, can we really tell them apart? But when we look at the vernacular architecture, it becomes clear. Istanbul, Beijing, Mexico City, and Moscow. And that is not to say that we should be replicating it, but it's to say the power and how much this architecture has become icons of the city. So with my own work, to give as an example, I took inspiration from Chinese pagoda style in Chinatown, Japantown, and then the colors of blue, of white, and red of Spanish style. And then these murals are drawn by the people in San Francisco, kind of inviting them to design the building themselves. And so kind of to say, we're not here to emulate, I don't think, like in terms of the current movement of architecture, we're not trying to emulate like Las Vegas, like an Eiffel Tower, like from the past, or Venice. And we're not trying to make just generic styles that don't inspire citizens either, like international modernism. We should look to the past for inspiration to innovate in the present and make a building the people of your city can be proud of. Thank you.